Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Tuesday, October 28th, a little after 6:17 in the evening, and this is our daily recap video for the $1 Billion Club. That's what we call YieldMax's for individual income funds that have greater than $1 billion in assets under management, being Coney, Misty, Nvidi, and TSLY. A reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. Let you know when videos premiere. Like today, earlier, I put out a distribution declaration video like I do generally on Tuesdays for what used to be called the weeklies, now that everything is. So now it's just group one. So that video is out, and obviously they will announce the rest of everything tomorrow. I don't make a video on that. It's just like 40 or 50 declarations that come all at once. It's just too much to go over. So let's take a look at the market. I think it was kind of an odd day. Started out like everything was green, and then some things took a turn late in the day. Starting off with Coney, right? They were up to begin with and just went down all day, ending 1.72% to the negative. Coney was able to outperform, only going down 1.35%. Similar story with MSTR, down 3.72%. Misty outperforming, only going down 3.16%. NVIDIA took a opposite turn, kept on going through the roof towards the end, up almost 5%. Nvidi not able to keep up, underperforming, only able to capture 3.64% of that. And Tesla up 1.8%. TSLY only able to capture 1.17%. So we'll take a look at the trades. First off, starting in alphabetical order with Coney. So they closed out a small portion of their $300 synthetic, which had some value, right? So to close it out, you're going to sell the long calls and buy to close the short puts. That brought in almost $1.5 million. And then they also had to close the call spread that was associated with those contracts, because they're using this as a synthetic like it's shares. So if they close it out, they're going to close out the options that went along with those shares, resulting in a $1.2 million credit on the options trading side of things today for Coney. When we look at the holdings, what we found from yesterday, so we saw the trade yesterday closing out 1,500 of the synthetic combo at $300. So today on the holdings, that is actually reflected now. And we still do have the synthetics at 300 and 390 expiring, the 300 at 11/21 and the 390 12/19. That $300 synthetic was now worth $107 million at the start of the day. Obviously, coin went down today, so that will decrease a little. The 390 was worth about a negative $50 million. It will go further in the negative once the download comes out. There's $1.3 billion in assets under management. Yesterday, people were selling out of the fund. Maybe people were taking a little bit of profits since it was such a big up day yesterday. But 800,000 shares came off the outstanding shares, bringing them under 200 million. NAV at the start of the day, 668. Closing price somewhere around 659. This is what Excel is pulling anyway. Their calls that are sold for this week are still in the money even after the drop today, but they did obviously come a lot closer. So as you can see at the start of the day, these 355s were going to cost $18.87 per share to close out. But now that they have dropped to less than 0.1% in the money, those will become much cheaper to close out. Let's see, 355. So they're only 22 cents in the money, so they definitely won't cost $18.87. Similarly, these are now only $5.22 in the money, so they won't cost anywhere near $21 anymore to close out. They still will have some time value associated with them, so they won't be exactly those quantities that I just mentioned. But tomorrow is declaration day, the 29th, so we'll find out what they're going to be paying. Last week they paid 9.32 cents. My guesstimate that I made on Sunday for this week is 8.5 cents. But this is the first time I'm making guesstimates for these funds, so I wouldn't bank a lot on my guesstimate on what I'm saying. Okay, next up, Misty. Misty had a handful of trades. Again, I like the color of the synthetics purple just so it kind of tracks along with what you're used to seeing on the other page. It makes it easier to see what's going on. So they did close out 1,000 contracts on the synthetic 330, and they also closed out the remaining 40 contracts from what they did yesterday at the 345. If you look at the holdings, it kind of seemed goofy. They I don't know if it was just a mistake on their part. They closed out 34,400 of the contracts at 345 when there was actually 34,440. So we started today with those 40 left. They closed them out today and moved them. Let's see, did they put them on the other? Yeah, the January 16th 300. So it seemed like it might have just been an oversight on their part yesterday. So closing the rest of those out as well, and then rolling those. But then as far as these 1,000, they had to close out these sold calls to go along with them. And then from there, just adjusting strike prices, right? Closing 315s, reselling them for the same week as 302.50s, closing 310s, selling them as 300s, still for the same week. So they are picking up some premium on these trades, closing 312.50s, selling them as 302.50s, making a $1.61 difference there, and then also buying and selling some of the other sides of the call. All in all, it cost $5 million on the trading day for Misty. We switch over to the holdings. Like we said, they got rid of those last 40 contracts that possibly were an oversight in yesterday's trading. Obviously, not a big deal there. So we're back to having three realistic synthetics: 330 for 11/21, 350 for 12/19, and 300 for January 26th of next year. What we saw as far as the buying and selling of the short calls were the two furthest out of the money, 315s and 312.50s, were complete closeouts and rolls. There were some more of other strike prices, but it wasn't a complete closeout, so that's why I didn't get the orange. So either way, we still have calls anywhere from 300 to 310 expiring on Friday, and they run from 5.4 to just about 9% out of the money. They, as of the start of the day, we're selling 80% of the possible calls. So I don't think that they actually sold any new ones that they didn't. Yeah, so they're still at 80%. They didn't sell any more that they hadn't also closed at the same time. All right, the synthetics are all underwater. The 330s are going to cost $170 million to close out. The 350s for December are going to cost $146 million, and the new 300s are estimated at a negative $9 million. Last week they paid 21.22 cents per share, and the guesstimate that I made this week was 17 cents a share. We'll find out tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock or 6:55. $3.3 billion in assets under management. Yesterday, people sold out of the fund, dropping the outstanding shares by 925,000, bringing it to 281,125,000. The NAV at the start of the day, $11.99, before they had a little bit of ugliness going on, closing around $11.64. And that's all we got, right? Just a reminder again, 10:30 is earnings date for both Misty and Coney. All right, we'll go to Nvidi. They had a lot of trades. So all in all, cost them $20 million on the trading day. We're starting off closing 190s, reselling them as 200s for the same week, closing some 185s, reselling them as 192.50s for the same week, closing 192.50s, selling them as 200s, keeping everything within the same week still. Closing 187.50s and selling 200s. Closing 190s and selling 200s. Closing 190s, selling 200s again. What else do we have? This was a closeout of a portion of the synthetic, so then this is the closeout to go along with it. So that's not going to be we're not going to see the resale on that. Closing 190s, selling 200s. Closing 185s, selling 200s. Closing 187.50s, selling 200s. And closing 190s, selling 200s. All right. So lots of closing and rolling. It resulted in all of the 185s, all the 190s, and a portion, but not all of the 187.50s. So we do still have some of those in play. Not sure why, but they are 6.7% in the money after today's big increase, almost 5% increase on NVIDIA, up over 200. Our synthetics, right from yesterday, we saw 1,800 contracts come off of the 170 synthetic for November 21st. So we still have 165s and 170s, a large quantity, both doing very well at the start of the day, worth 146 million and 89 million. So after the 5% increase, they will have obviously large gains that we will be reporting tomorrow based on the late night download that comes from tonight. 1.8 billion in assets under management. No change in the shares from yesterday, so 111,700,000. NAV at the start 1623, closing at 1683. They sell 100% of the possible calls that they can based on the synthetics. Tomorrow is declaration day. Last week they paid 12.06 cents. I made a bold guess on this one and said it was going to be more than double, 25 cents. So we will find out tomorrow. And they declare their earnings. NVIDIA does on November 19th. Finally, we have TSLY. TSLY had a decent amount of trades as well. This is the first of the week. They didn't trade anything yesterday, so nothing synthetic-wise. Closing out some 440s and selling them as 460s. Everything staying within the same week. They're just having to adjust because of the share price increase. They're having to close out their calls because they've got blown through and selling them at a higher strike. Closing 450s and selling 467.50s. Closing 437.50s and selling 457.50s, so they're moving up by $20 there. Closing 447.50s, selling 462.50s, and selling closing 450s and selling 465s. I only mentioned the ones that are generating income. The short calls, they're also obviously adjusting the other ends of the spreads on all of these as well. We're just interested in what they're selling. Okay, so now their 4 strikes that were deepest in the money have been completely closed and rolled. We do still have 452.50s, $452.50, 455s, and $457.50 strikes in play. They're anywhere from 0.6 to 1.7% in the money. Obviously, the new ones that they just sold further out of the money will be further out of the money. They'll show up on tomorrow's download. When we look at our synthetics, both expire November 21st with strikes of 415 and 420, large amount at each, 16,000 and 11,000 plus. Both are valuable, $64 million and $39 million. The price underneath of that, I haven't been mentioning every time, is what that would equate to if divided up amongst all the shares. So you're looking at 42 cents and 26 cents per share value. That's before today's increase. So obviously these will all move up in value as well. 1.2 billion in assets under management. Yesterday, people actually bought into the fund. Money flowed in. 850,000 new shares got added to the outstanding share count, bringing it up over 150 million. The NAV at the start of the day, 852, closing around 862. They already declared their earnings for Tesla last week. And last week they paid 16.52 cents per share for TSLY, and my guesstimate was 14 cents for this week. Again, we'll find everything out tomorrow. All right, that's all I have for you. So we're right at the 15-minute mark, so keeping it short and sweet. So I got a dad joke. So thank you. Appreciate all the likes, shares, comments. Please, forward this to people or mention it to people that are into these funds so they can keep an eye on their investments just like you are. All right, dad joke of the day. Guys, I just bought 50 chicks from a farm. They were going cheap. What was I supposed to do? All right, thank you. Have a good night. Good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll catch you in the next video.